Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody, and happy St. George's Day. Yes, it is the English National Day today. Now, I have been celebrating this all of my life. I've always put a rose in my buttonhole and done my best at lunchtime to celebrate in what I think to be an appropriate manner, namely a pint of English beer, maybe even sometimes two. But it's funny, you know, that years ago, celebrating St. George's Day, you were thought to be a little bit odd. I mean, many still think I am, obviously, but very odd, and if anything, perhaps a little bit nasty. There was always this tone, this feeling, that whilst it was wonderful to celebrate Scottish nationalism, Welsh nationalism, Irish nationalism, but it was somehow wrong, bad, to say that you were proud to be English. The narrative sort of went out there that somehow it was racist, it was xenophobic, it wasn't inclusive. And of course the Labour Party in particular have had a real problem with this. Many of you will remember Emily Thornberry sending out the tweet photograph from Rochester from the by-election of a white van with the St. George's flag on it. It was Emily saying, oh gosh, aren't these people simply beastly? Little good that it did her. There's nothing new in this, by the way. There's nothing new. I myself this morning was on Good Morning Britain on ITV, up against an academic from Birmingham University, and he was making that same old argument that somehow St. George's Day is bad and wrong, the flag is a symbol of nastiness, there's nothing we should do. When I say there's nothing new in this, George Orwell, over 70 years ago, wrote this. In left-wing circles, it is always felt there is something slightly disgraceful in being an Englishman, and that it is a duty to snigger at every English institution, from horse racing to suet puddings. It is a strange fact, but it is unquestionably true, that almost every English intellectual would feel more ashamed of standing to attention during God Save the King than of stealing from the poor box. Orwell, utterly brilliant in so many ways, and I think true today in many cases. However, I do sense a bit of a change, because today we saw Jeremy Corbyn, Diane Abbott saying Happy St. George's Day. Jeremy Corbyn even suggesting that for England it should be a national holiday. When I said that as UKIP leader, this was cause of huge hilarity. This idiot Farage, who's got no idea what's going on in the country, and now the leader of the opposition party is saying that it might be a good idea. So things are moving, things are shifting, but still underlying this, there is this argument that if you associate yourself as being English, this is a sign that you are right-wing. It is a sign that you are xenophobic. And before we move on to have that debate, I'm going to ask you, do you think there is still a stigma and that it's wrong somehow to wave the flag of St. George? And if you do, call 0345 60 60 973. Or perhaps you think it's right to display your flag and be proud of it, in which case text to 84850. And whether you're left-wing or right-wing, please send me some pictures that you've seen from around England today. Flags being flown, Morris men perhaps dancing, whatever it may be. And you can do that using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And of course, you can watch us on Facebook. We're live here in England, broadcasting, and you can tell us there what you think about St. George's Day as well. Before we start the debate, can I just say, big congratulations to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge on the birth of their baby son today. A royal baby, and it weighed 8 pounds 7 ounces. Yes, we were given an imperial measurement. None of your Napoleonic rubbish coming from the royal family. Congratulations to the happy couple, and we wish the boy. We don't know his name yet. We wish him well. I will have a bet with you, though. Nigel is not particularly near the top of the list. That name seems to be dying out with me and perhaps Nigel Mansell and Nigel Kennedy, and that's more or less it, I think. There are almost no Nigels named in this country anymore. So, do you associate those that stand up and fly the cross of St. George? Does that somehow make them right-wing, xenophobic and bad? Or is it time that, in fact, we reclaim the flag and said, just because a few morons might fly this flag doesn't mean the rest of us shouldn't be proud of an English identity, and that's absolutely where I come from. Richard is a first-time caller to this show, and he's calling from Hayton. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel.
How are you?
Oh, fantastic to speak to you. I'm incensed with this, Nigel. I was just telling the person on the phone the other end. I went for an operation, a small operation on my knee about a year ago, and before you have an operation, you have to go and have a pre-op where they do fill out loads of forms, and they says, "What's your status? White English, black English, British?" And I says, "Oh no, I'm white English." And the nurse went, "No, you're not English. That's just the language you speak." I cannot believe that.
Yeah. I mean, there was this problem on the census forms, wasn't there? You weren't allowed to say that you were English on the census forms.
You weren't allowed to say it. I was not allowed to put that on the form. It was just the language I spoke. And hearing this today, I just thought I'd let you know how incensed I was then.
Yeah.
And still to this day incensed about it.
Well, you know, Richard, we've had years of this. We've had years of, you know, Englishness being mocked, being laughed at, but the very same people who think St. Patrick's Day is absolutely fantastic. And it is extraordinary.
In our village, the pubs all had green hats and give everything. You wouldn't know it was St. George's Day in the village. You wouldn't have a clue.
What, today, you mean?
Yeah, you wouldn't have a clue, but when it was St. Patrick's Day, there was all sorts of green flags. They were giving out green hats, you know.
Well, Richard, I have to say, I have seen a bit of a resurgence in St. George's Day. There are now, you know, more places flying the cross of St. George, more pubs, perhaps, you know, making something of the day, but it's still not big. It's still not big enough, Richard, by a long chalk. And my advice to you is to get down that local pub and make sure they all know that it's St. George's Day, and tell them next year to do better.
I've got to do it. Thanks for listening.
All right, boy. Thanks very much indeed. Bye. Leon on Facebook says, that's the most stupid thing to ever think. Being English is simply a nationality, not a political view. Leon, I agree with you, but as I pointed out to you, right back from George Orwell, you know, writing in the 1940s, there has been this English left-wing intellectualism filled with self-loathing, not wanting us to be proud of who we are. David says, what is wrong? What is bad about being English? This isn't about being Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish. No one ever accuses nationalists of those countries from being right-wing extremists or racist. Well, David, the point I was trying to make this morning on Good Morning Britain, and I repeat it, is just because a few morons fly the flag, you know, we should not, the rest of us, recoil from doing it. Think about the Irish flag being flown on, you know, St. Patrick's Day. There are people who, in the name of that flag, have done some awful things, but the fact a few people have done it in that name does not damn that flag to people worldwide who celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And I remember back in the 1970s being told, oh, no, you mustn't have the Union Jack on anything. You mustn't display the Union Jack anywhere, because that's a symbol of the extreme right. And you know what? Actually, we reclaim that flag from the extreme right, and it's now, the Union Jack is so trendy, you see kids in America with it plastered over their T-shirts, and we must do the same, I think, with the cross of St. George. Liz in Ruislip agrees. She says she's proud to say she's English, and great news about the royal baby, isn't it? Chris is calling from Croydon. Hi, Chris.
Oh, hello, Nigel. Yeah, I just want to say the Labour Party has always had a difficulty in distinguishing patriotism from nationalism. Then from nationalism, of course, it's just but a short step to fascism. And, of course, they're frantically backpedalling now.
They are backpedalling, Chris.
Yeah.
They are backpedalling in quite a long, in quite a huge way, actually. But tell me, why do you think that it's a short step from nationalism to fascism?
Well, it's intellectual slovenliness, that's all. It's because they don't think well enough. Look, it is very easy to define. A patriot loves his country.
Yes.
A nationalist hates everybody else's. Now, if you want an example of patriotism, just think of the last night of the proms that everybody's singing Jerusalem.
Yeah.
If you want an example of nationalism, get yourself a DVD of the film Cabaret with Michael York and Liza Minnelli. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Get to the beer garden scene where the young boy starts off what you think is going to be a nice German folk song, and it ends up with a Nazi song with faces contorted with hatred joining in the chorus.
Well, Chris, I think I would argue back at you that nationalism in its extreme form can be a very dangerous bad thing.
Yes. Oh, yes.
If it's not tempered by democracy.
Yes.
But if it's tempered by democracy, it will never ever be able to go to those extremes. But I think a gentle form of I'm going to argue, Chris, to you that a gentle form of nationalism is not of itself a bad thing.
No, of course not.
But it's about degrees. It is about degrees. And, you know, when Jeremy Corbyn says he thinks St George's Day should be a national holiday, do you think he's sort of converted himself?
No, just sheer slimy hypocrisy.
Right.
He'd be perfectly happy to vote to us to belong to the Soviet Union when he's in his student days, wouldn't he?
Well, he was certainly quite pro the Soviet Union in those days. Chris, great call. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Jake, first-time caller from Farnborough. Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Farage. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. So, come on. What's wrong with the Cross of St George?
There's nothing wrong with flying the flag in and of itself. I don't think it's necessary to say that it's racist or bigoted to be proud to be part of a particular country. I mean, every single country, provided they're moral and decent, of course, is that they have the right to say they're proud to be French, German, whatever. So there's no difference between that. Brits should be allowed to say that they're proud to be British. There's nothing xenophobic about it, and it's not a denial of any immigrant that chooses to live into this country.
No. But why, Jake? Why, Jake, does so many on the intellectual left sneer and accuse those of us that want to be English of directly being against everybody because we're happy with the flag?
Could be to do with virtue signalling, maybe, to the minorities who may not feel the same way, or one possibility I'm thinking of. It's just, I don't know, that with the left it's a really funny situation, considering they bang on. I'm not saying all leftists are like this, by the way, Nigel, but a lot of leftists bang on about how not racist they are, and they want to say, you know, they want to be inclusive, they want to treat people with respect, that's fine, but denying Brits to say that we're proud to be British just because it will offend a minority is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. We should try and get the minorities to feel that way as well, shouldn't we, Jake? That would be the right way round.
I suppose there's one way of looking at it.
But I've always felt that, and I think, you know, when immigrant communities identify themselves as English or Scottish or Welsh or Northern Irish or British, I think then we're in a much healthier place. Jake, I thank you very much for your call. Bit of breaking news. Several pedestrians have been hit by a van in Toronto, say police in the Canadian city. The collision occurred at a busy intersection, and local reports say up to 10 people may have been struck. More on this as we get it. For now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:16.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Police forces across Britain are still guilty of institutional racism 25 years after the murder of Stephen Lawrence. So says Dr. John Sentamu, the Archbishop of York. Janet Hill chairs the Metro and Black Police Association.
We actually had gaps in the rank structure where black women and Asian women are not represented.
But respectfully, that's not institutional racism. He's saying all coppers are racist, or the institution is racist, and he's wrong.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
Want to progress more in your career or run your own business?
With a business degree at GSM London, you can follow your bold dreams to success.
Degrees are awarded by the University of Plymouth, and at GSM London, you can start a degree without formal qualifications on our foundation year.
So why wait till October? Start a degree this June.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London now.
GSM London. Have bold dreams.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At The Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions, working harder with The Pension Works.
Award-winning Howarth Homes presents another outstanding development, The Dairy, an exciting new collection of just 33 apartments moments from Hillingdon Underground Station and the A40. With completion mid-2020 and the potential to benefit from the surrounding area's future regeneration, there may never be a better time to buy. The Dairy launches off-plan on the 26th of April with prices from as little as $259,995. Discover more at howarthhomes.co.uk.
Could you take a photo of us in front of the cathedral?
Oh, we need to get a selfie on the beach.
Wait, before you eat it, take a photo of the octopus. There are many ways to make your friends jealous in Malta, but only one way to fly. Fly British Airways from Gatwick to Malta from £389 per person for return flights and 7 nights accommodation. Availability and dates are extremely limited. ATOL protected. Conditions and booking fee may apply. For full details, cba.com/Gatwick.
Buying or selling a business is a big step, let's face it. So you don't need it to be a big, stressful, headache-inducing, want-to-pull-your-hair-out step. You want a helpful team, a straightforward process, and people that know what they're doing, which perfectly describes Hilton Smythe. If you're buying, get your dream business anywhere across the UK. And if you're selling, there's loads of reasons you should do it the Hilton Smythe way. See why? Click thehsway.co.uk.
Buddy will go to any lengths to fetch. So, Buddy, go forth and do your thing. And Pets in a Pickle Pet Insurance will make sure you're protected through high-speed chases, mid-air collisions, and beyond. Get a free quote today at petsinthepickle.co.uk.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
We are waiting for more news from Toronto, where we've heard that a van has hit up to 10 people at a busy intersection. We're awaiting a statement from police in Toronto. Meanwhile, it is St George's Day, although not everyone would know it was St George's Day. Now, had we been in Scotland, you know, and on St Andrew's Day, or been in Wales on St David's Day, or been anywhere in the world on St Patrick's Day, we'd have known it was their national holiday. And yet, you know, I saw some vox pops done this morning of people saying, oh, is it really St George's Day? I've always celebrated it. I think more people are beginning to celebrate it. We're beginning to see Labour politicians who turned their head from it. You know, even Jeremy Corbyn now supporting the concept of an English national holiday. But actually, saying you're English and proud of it has been a very difficult, awkward and embarrassing place. And it's all well and good, isn't it? The Scots can have a parliament, the Welsh an assembly, the Northern Irish an assembly. But can the English have a voice on their own laws without it being voted on by those from the other parts of the United Kingdom? Well, the answer so far has been a big no. And I think it's fair to say that quite a lot of English people feel a little bit frustrated by this. Let's ask Glenn in Milton Keynes what he thinks. Good evening, Glenn.
Oh, Nigel, how you doing, mate? All right.
I'm doing all right, and you?
Listen, I'm in the building trade, and what I got, you know, every year I put the flag up, and I couldn't believe it, last year on St George's Day, there were tens of dozens of flags and, you know, and vans and cars and all that. Today I was working in Kensington and Chelsea. Apart from my van, there was 2 flags on the cars. And when I asked a few people going down, I said, half of them didn't even know it was St George's Day. And I asked the other half, you know, I said, you know, it's St George's Day. Half said, I don't really care. And I thought, hold up, you know, can't you be proud of your country? But what really annoyed me this morning, Nigel, I put a telly on, all the station, BBC, ITV, nothing was said about St George's Day. Well, you know, this is 6 in the morning, but it was St Patrick's Day. First thing they said on the morning was...
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, Glenn, could it be there were fewer St George's flags where you were, because you were in one of the wealthiest parts of the United Kingdom?
Well, no, because last year I worked round that way, and there was lots of vans and people who had flags and all that, and even driving through on the motorway and all that, because I got down the M1. You know, there was flags and all that, nothing.
Right, so today was pretty poor, Glenn, was it?
I think so, and I said to people, you know, and they said, someone said, it's a racist thing. I said, do you realise...
Did they really?
Yeah, I said, do you realise St George was a Turk? And he didn't even know that. You know, and I said, you've got to be proud of your country. But as I said, I can't believe it. This morning I put on Piers Morgan. I thought he'll come out St George. Nothing.
Well, I was on with Piers Morgan. I was on at 8:10.
I must be working hard when you were.
But by 8:10, Glenn, you're hard at it, aren't you?
That's
toiling
right.
in the vineyard.
Oh, I wish.
Glenn, you know, your general point that a lot of people wouldn't have even known it was St George's Day, and that the media do not make as much of a fuss of it as they do the other national holidays, is absolutely justified. So what should we do, Glenn? Should we have a national holiday?
Oh, without doubt. You know, I remember, I'm 61 now, but I remember as a kid going to school and the flags were flying and all that, you know? But everything now, you're walking on eggshells now.
Yeah, well, let's not worry about the eggshells. Let's not worry about the eggshells. Let's get on. Glenn, I promise you, I'll be out there next year flying the flag. In fact, I tell you what, I'm going to come out in sympathy with you right now by flying one here in the studio. All right, Glenn, I'm displaying the Cross of St George right now in sympathy with you and to say to people, it's St George's Day. Listen to Glenn. Be proud of the flag, and let's celebrate the day. What on earth's wrong with that? Glenn, thank you very much indeed for the call. Poor old Glenn there, feeling lonely with his flag. I thought I'd help him out a little bit there. I get on Twitter, we should be proud of our national identity as everyone else in the world is proud of theirs. Nice to hear the St George's flag is being reclaimed. We're trying, Marjorie, we're trying. We haven't got there yet. You know, I was up against an academic this morning on Good Morning Britain who said that to him, and he felt for many of the black community in this country, that this flag represented slavery, represented colonialism, represented beastliness towards black immigrants coming into Britain in the 60s, 70s and 80s. And, you can't rewrite history, but to tell people in a country they should be ashamed of who they are actually isn't very healthy in my view. Personally, I'm proud to be English, even though my mum was a Scot. She was a proud Scot, British, and lived all her life in England, says Ian. Come on, someone out there tell me. Somebody please ring me on 0345 6060 973 and tell me I'm a complete idiot to celebrate St George's Day and that it does represent something bad and nasty. Let's go to a different corner of the United Kingdom, Ballycastle in Northern Ireland. Alan's on the line. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, Nigel, and I'm sorry I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not going to say that you're an idiot for celebrating St George's Day.
Okay, well, I'm sure someone will, Alan, don't worry. But
no doubt there'll be some left-wing Egypt will, but it certainly won't be me. Funny enough today, by the way, happy St George's Day to
Thank you.
And all your English listeners.
Thank you.
Certainly, I think the first thing that should happen is a campaign to get it to be made a holiday.
Yes. Yeah, well, I must admit, the fact that I've talked about this and now Mr Corbyn is, so that's good direction of travel, I think.
Well, if it's made a holiday, it brings the day to everybody's attention, and it also gives people a chance then, St George's Day, this is great, let's celebrate, let's have parades, and let's make the day a special day, and that's the way it should be. But funny enough, today, all they talk today about St George's Day and why people should or shouldn't celebrate it, I hear the words nationalism and racism being bandied. The one word I haven't heard, though, is patriotism.
Yes, Alan, I think that, although even that word, some would say patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel, but generally, patriotism is an easier word for people to associate with. I would agree with that.
But if I can quote Charles de Gaulle, who was French president up until about 1968, 69, whenever he passed away, Charles de Gaulle, one of the few good things he said was, patriotism is when love of your own people comes first. Yes. Nationalism, when hate for people other than your own comes first. And people that I've heard that want to celebrate St George's Day, I get the impression that they're patriots rather than being nationalist.
That's a very useful comment, and interesting, isn't it? I mean, Trump's agenda in America was America first. Perhaps he's a Gaullist without even realising it. Perhaps he'll tell Monsieur Macron that at dinner tonight. Alan, thank you for the call. And again, second caller tonight, drawing a distinction and saying patriotism of itself is very healthy. Nationalism, look, I would say to all of you, nationalism in the right dosages is fine. Nationalism in extremes is not fine. Suki is calling from Birmingham. Good evening.
Hi, Nigel.
Hello there. So, is there anything wrong with the St George's flag, Suki?
Yeah, look, I mean, the problem with the St George's flag is this, and my parents came from India in the 1950s.
Yep.
And I was born here in 1967 in Wolverhampton. And growing up as a young child in the 70s and 80s, The problem with the St George's flag was that it was hijacked by the sort of the neo-Nazis, the National Front, the British National Party, basically the main racist parties in this country.
I'm going to disagree with that. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Let me just make one quick point before you go on.
Sure.
Actually, you're wrong, because the National Front and the BNP didn't go for the Cross of St George. They went for the Union flag, the Union Jack.
Well, certainly, I mean, look, Nigel, when I was wandering around looking at these racists march through Wolverhampton, for example, many of them did carry the St George's flag. And I worked in Stoke, for example, where a few years ago at least several BNP councillors were elected. And what was their main flag? Their main flag was the St George's flag. So that, I mean, I wish that we could celebrate with the St George's flag. I wish that all, because England now is a multicultural country, a multiracial country, and that all races could celebrate their Englishness and their...
Suki, if I ask you, as somebody born in the Midlands in 1967, are you English?
Yeah. I mean, look...
Would you say yes?
Well, hang on a second. If I'm absolutely honest with you, if you'd grown up in the environment I had grown up, in the sort of environment that Stephen Lawrence had grown up, and you'd experienced... I mean, when I went to school, the kids in my class, and I went to a predominantly all-white school, the kids in my class, scrawled on their exercise books was packaged to the gas chambers. That's the sort of stuff I got when I was at school. When I'd be walking down the street, it was, F off you, packy, or whatever.
Is the country getting better now, in your view, than it was then?
Much better. It's undergone a transformation since the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, and I think a lot of that happened.
Well, with that, can we then reclaim the flag as well?
I think we can. I think we're making progress.
Good.
And, if Corbyn says, let's celebrate St George...
We're getting somewhere. Suki, I'm going to have to leave you. Fascinating conversation and a very optimistic note with which to say it's time for the news now. It's 7:31. Philip Chrysakos.
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have introduced their new baby to the world, who is now fifth in line to the throne. Kate appeared relaxed, smiling and waving at the crowds outside London St Mary's Hospital in Paddington, 7 hours after giving birth this morning. In the last half hour, police in Canada say a driver has been arrested after a van struck at least 8 people. It happened in Toronto. The cause and the extent of the injuries is not yet known. Nigel will be leading Britain's conversation with more details on that developing story in moments. The Home Secretary says UK citizenship fees and language tests will be waived for the Windrush generation and their families. Amber Rudd has also told the Comments her department will speed up compensation payouts. LBC weather. Rain across England and Wales this evening and overnight. Showers elsewhere, a low of 8 degrees. Tomorrow, grey and wet for England and Wales. Sunshine and showers elsewhere, a high of 14 degrees.
LBC travel in East Bedfont. The A30 Great South West Road is closed eastbound between the Clockhouse roundabout and Heathrow Terminal 4 because of an accident. In West Kensington North End Road, it's closed in both directions between West Kensington Station and Lily Road. That's for a police investigation. And the A13 is slow moving heading out of town between Poplar and Movers Lane in Barking. That was after a breakdown earlier. On the tubes, there are minor delays on the Victoria Line and on the Heathrow and Uxbridge branches of the Piccadilly Line. LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh.
This is LBC. Attention all pension holders. If you've been advised by a financial professional to move your pension into a SIP, also known as a self-invested personal pension, you could be owed thousands in compensation. Money Redress are the claim specialist you can trust. Text WIN to 80252 right now. From overseas property to storage units, they're the experts who can investigate your claim. And it's no payout, no fee. Take control of your pension today. Text WIN to 80252.
Alexa, who is the best English rugby player of all time?
Good question. My favourite is Johnny Wilkinson.
Really? Oh, nice one. Alexa, who's the most popular English rugby player of all time?
Definitely Johnny Wilkinson.
Alexa, I love you.
That's really sweet.
Take out Vitality Health or Life Insurance today, and you could get an Amazon Echo Dot, just like Johnny. And to find your inner athlete, enable the Vitality Alexa skill for fitness and nutrition tips. To get your Amazon Echo Dot, just search Vitality. New member offer available on certain Vitality plans until the 30th of June 2018. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
£1.20.
£1.20?
£1.20?
Grab yourself this better than half-price Super Saver deal from the Co-op. A 4-pack of Muller fruit or Crunch Corner for just
£1.20.
Was £2.65. Participating stores only, subject to availability. Offer ends 8th of May.
Want to progress more in your career or run your own business?
With a business degree at GSM London, you can follow your bold dreams to success.
Degrees are awarded by the University of Plymouth, and at GSM London, you can start a degree without formal qualifications on our foundation year.
So why wait till October? Start a degree this June.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London now.
GSM London. Have bold dreams.
So tell us your name and what you do.
My name's Olivia. I'm a hermit crab, passionate about dance, and I'm a proud mum to 49 darling hermit crabs.
Wow, you must need a lot of room for the kids, not the dancing.
Oh, we've got a 4-bedroom house with an extension and garden.
Oh, where did you find it?
Zoopla. Me and the hubby used the running costs tool to see if we could afford the rent, energy bills and council tax.
Clever.
We've even got an idea of the water bills. Great for us crabs. Oh, is this live? Can I show you some of my dance moves?
Yeah, it's radio. No one's going to see you.
Oh.
Find and move with Zoopla. Smarter about property.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
We're discussing St George's Day. We're discussing the flag, the attempt to hijack it by extremists and racists, and I'm saying we shouldn't shy away from it, we should reclaim it and be proud of it, whatever many of our intellectual classes think. But before we get back to that, we're going to go to Lorenda Redicott from CBC Toronto, who's going to help us and tell us what's happening with this incident, where a van has hit, we're told, up to 10 people. Lorenda, good evening.
Hi there.
Hi there. So what news do we have?
Well, we're hearing conflicting numbers in terms of just how many pedestrians were hit, but what we do know is it was a white van. Possibly it went up on the curb, on the sidewalk, and hit multiple pedestrians. What we heard from a witness who was at the scene says that he saw a couple of people being given CPR and then saw several as well who were already covered up. There were emergency workers on the scene at that time. And so from police, we were hearing that it was 8 to 10 people who were hit and hearing a lower number from the emergency workers. So we're not quite sure on that. Initially, we'd heard that the driver had fled the scene, but police now say they found the driver and the van, and that driver is now arrested.
And do I understand that people have been told to avoid the area?
That's right. We're seeing that, for example, subway service, there's a stop right near there. And so subway trains are running, but they're not stopping at that station right now. This is an area that has lots of office buildings and restaurants, lots of people around there. It's in the city's north end.
So no indication at this stage as to what the cause of this may be?
That's right, not yet. But, I mean, in Canada right now, we hear this type of incident with multiple people hit, and people right away, they think about this horrible crash that happened in rural Canada, the province of Saskatchewan, just a couple weeks ago. And it was really unprecedented. It was an entire hockey team in a bus, 16 people killed. A GoFundMe campaign that raised more than $15 million. And I just feel like the whole country's hearts are just breaking over that tragedy still. So we hear that, and that's what a lot of Canadians immediately think of. Even though this is Canada's largest city, such a different circumstance, but of course that's what people are still thinking.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Thank you very much indeed. That was Lorenda Redicott from Toronto's CBC. So, there's clearly a major incident occurred in Toronto, but as yet no indication whatsoever as to what the cause or motivation of the driver may or may not be. Now, you'll remember, during the referendum on Brexit, I had to get Brexit in somewhere, folks. You'll remember that man Osborne, remember him? He was our Chancellor, telling us terrible things. 800,000 jobs could be lost. Gloom, doom and disaster. So let's just have a little look, shall we, at some of the things that have happened to the British economy since Brexit. You know, we learnt in June 2017, exactly a year after the referendum, that UK's manufacturing order books had swelled to a 30-year high. We learnt at the end of December 2017 that foreign and direct investment in Britain had jumped by £25 billion up from the previous year. We're learning in March of this year that pay had grown by 2.8% in the 3 months to January 2018. We've also learned that unemployment, we learnt this in March too, had fell to 4.3%, the lowest number we've had for 43 years. And in April, it keeps on coming. Many people now saying that actually we're becoming, in some ways, the envy of Europe. Oh, and the pound. Remember that? The pound was going to crash, and for months we heard people saying, because of Brexit, it's a disaster. Sterling's going to collapse. The prices of everything will go up. Well, so far, in this year of 2018, the pound is 5.8% higher against the US dollar and is the strongest performing currency in the G10, the 10 biggest economic nations in the world. And again, this month, according to the Office for National Statistics, the net rates of return on manufacturing companies increased from 13.8 in the third quarter to 15.8 in the final quarter. So actually those investing in our industries doing well, making profits, and that's feeding in to pay as well. All that doom and gloom, do you know what? We're doing just fine. Back to St George's Day. People like me, who wear their rose, who say they're proud to be English, who used to be figures of absolute mockery. I think there is a change in the weather. I think we're beginning to have some more acceptance that being English is not of itself a terrible thing, but I also think we've a long way to go. Now, I have a long-distance caller on this. Matthew is calling from San Jose in Costa Rica. Good evening, Matthew.
Hi there, Nigel. I think when it comes to our nations and our flags, I think half the problem is we're a little bit inconsistent.
Okay.
Because obviously, you know, in the Olympics we participate as Great Britain under the Union Jack. In Eurovision we participate as the United Kingdom under the Union Jack. And in the World Cup we participate as England under St George's flag. And I think really internationally, you know, part of the problem might be that English football fans have got made quite a reputation for themselves abroad, being hooligans and yobbos. And I think for me, when I see it, I have that connotation. I think of football. And I think perhaps that might be what Emily Thornberry was getting at, that actually rather than being a right-wing symbol, it's more of a sort of a football fan, sort of lower class.
It's snobbery, Matthew. That's what it's all about. It's snobbery. It was a white van outside a relatively modestly priced property, and this was snobbery coming from a very senior representative of a party that has prided itself for 100 years on representing the working classes.
Well, correct. Yeah, you could imagine it, maybe coming from the Tories, but Labour is supposed to represent that particular class.
Matthew, I do understand what you're saying about football, and we have had a few football yobs, although I'm told that those that travel to Russia this year will meet the real football hooligans, and in fact English fans being told today not to take English flags with them for fear that could provoke attacks from some of the Russian football supporters.
Yeah.
Matthew, I do understand.
Can I say?
Just finish very quickly.
Yeah.
I understand there's been yobbery associated with the flag. I understand there's been some extremism associated with that, with the flag. But isn't that even more reason why the middle ground ought to reclaim it and own it?
Well, perhaps, but I do think there's another element to this because, the fact is, we are the United Kingdom, and I think that's the flag we should be celebrating because, the Union Jack does not have that connotation. It's actually,
well, it did 40 years ago,
brand,
Matthew.
In terms of fashion, it's a global brand.
It is. It really is. But 40 years ago, Matthew, I was being told the same thing at school about the Union Jack. And that has been reclaimed.
Well, listen, the thing is that the UK, obviously, it used to be separate nations, the Kingdom of England, a little bit like Italy, only existed for 150 years. Before that, you had the Republic of Pisa. You'd be a bit peculiar, weren't you, if you were an Italian sort of going around with your Pisan cross celebrating, when the former country. I think now you can be proud to be Italian because it's very much united, and I think that's what we need to achieve.
Yeah, even the Northern League, Matthew, who were the big separatist party in the north, campaigned in the last Italian general election just as the League and tried to get votes in the south. So I do understand that point. The difference is, Matthew, because of devolution, there has, I think, been a more profound sense of Scottish identity, of Welsh identity, and Northern Ireland is obviously more complicated. But I think maybe because of all of this, a lot more of us in England saying, well, what about us? And maybe
we need a Brexit Independence Day, Nigel.
Well, I tell you what, I used to campaign, Matthew, for a national holiday on St George's Day, but tonight I'm going to drop that. I think we should have a national holiday on the 23rd of June, which is Brexit Day, and we can celebrate that in all four corners of the United Kingdom. Matthew, thank you for your call very much indeed. Robert is a first-time caller from Putney. Good evening, Robert.
Hello, Nigel. Thank you for taking my call.
Not one bit.
I'm a big fan of yours, and thank you for saving Great Britain for future generations.
Well, it's very sweet of you, and I do believe in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, but I also believe in England, Robert. In fact, Andrew Marr, in a book he wrote in the early 2000s, having briefly met me as a new MEP from UK, I was young then, Andrew Marr said in his book, Nigel Farage is every Frenchman's quintessential nightmare of what an Englishman might be. I'm rather proud of that.
Well, people love you or they hate you like Marmite, I'm afraid. The thing I'm going to tell you, though, whilst I'm a really seriously big fan of yours, I think you've got it wrong on this one.
Okay.
I think you're onto a loser. I'll tell you why. It's because it's all right for... I'm not being rude about their beliefs, but a Christian Catholic country like Ireland celebrating St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick is a Christian figure. Now, St. George is also a Christian figure.
He is.
He never actually visited this country, probably didn't even know it existed. But it's a religious figure. That's the difference. We are not religious anymore, and it's really turning people off. If you call it England Day, or even Shakespeare Day...
Well, and of course, Robert, for those that don't know, this is Shakespeare's birthday and his death day as well, isn't it?
We could cope with a Shakespeare Day, no problem, or even an England Day. But remember, Nigel, England isn't a country anymore. It stopped being a country when we joined with Scotland, became Great Britain.
Yeah, but I'm arguing, Robert, that the new devolved powers have given Scotland a much bigger sense of identity, Wales a much bigger sense of identity, and I think the English are beginning to feel it too. And Robert, I want to point this out to you. Before coming on air, I was looking out from the top floor of this building across London, and I noticed that Westminster Abbey tonight is flying the Cross of St George. And you say we're not religious. Well, in terms of church attendance, that's true. But actually, the Church of England is still the established religion of this country with the Queen at its head.
And so how many Muslims are going to rally that flag?
Yeah. Well, some may find it difficult because it is, as you say, a
religious figure,
a Christian symbol, and I do understand that point. However, identities evolve and they move on, and society has changed in Britain. I mean, I don't think. Even if we're not particularly religious, we should have a problem with the flag. The flag is a symbol. It's part of our identity, even though I accept things have moved on. Robert, thank you for that call. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC. It's now 7:47.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Jeremy Corbyn is using St George's Day to promote his plan for 4 extra bank holidays. Is this a brilliant idea or just an attempt to buy votes?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce cost you any more than it has to. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
When the beast from the east struck, snow fell, temperatures plummeted, and the country ground to a halt. But Swale Heating leapt into action. Over the week, we helped over 10,000 homes stay warm and safe. To find out more about our boiler installations and maintenance schemes, visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Want to progress more in your career or run your own business?
With a business degree at GSM London, you can follow your bold dreams to success.
Degrees are awarded by the University of Plymouth, and at GSM London, you can start a degree without formal qualifications on our foundation year.
So why wait till October? Start a degree this June.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London now.
GSM London. Have bold dreams.
Dacia, a car company unlike others. I like that. Europe's fastest selling automotive brand. I like it. The Dacia Sandero, a What Car Award winner 6 straight years. Like that too. And it's yours from just $6,995. Very likeable. Read the glowing reviews at dacia.co.uk from our lovely customers. What's not to like? Seems more and more people are warming to the Dacia way. You'll like it too. At participating dealers only.
So, tell us your name and what you do.
My name's Clive and I'm a hermit crab. Clive's the name, moving home is the game.
And as a hermit crab, do you like finding new places to live?
Oh yeah, before Zoopla, it used to do my shelling.
And it's better now?
Oh, with Zoopla, finding a new place is easy. And they help manage your move too. From comparing mortgages to checking removals. They even help find broadband and telly packages. I never miss an episode of Celebrity Crab Island.
Well, that's certainly something to be proud of.
Find and move with Zoopla. Smarter about property.
We've been thinking about pruning. Not your peonies or your privet, but your cost of living. And how, from broadband to mobile phones, these days we're all looking for ways to trim our spending. And then we thought, couldn't we help you cut back on your biggest outgoing? And we thought, yes, we could. So we'll always try to help you remortgage to a better rate and save on your monthly repayments. Mortgages for how life is now. NatWest. We are what we do.
Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
It's St George's Day, and yes, the Cross of St George does have strong Christian origins. But we are, in terms of attendance, a less Christian country than we ought to be. And I don't think we should be ashamed of our past and the things that have shaped us. People who tell me it's a symbol of slavery and we should, set fire to all the flags are missing the point. People want identities, and it's all well and good and trendy for the Scots and the Welsh and the Irish to have their national days and their identity. Why shouldn't we? Kevin on Facebook agrees. We should be proud of our country. Happy St George's Day. Sandra, congratulations to Kate and William on the birth of their baby. Andrew says, what about being British? We don't have a national day for Britain. Well, we do have national bank holidays, and we do occasionally, Andrew, get things like, golden jubilees, silver jubilees, things like that happen on a national level. But I do agree, what about being British? And I'm very happy to write down British first and English second. That's the way I feel about it, but I am English too. Barry says, George Osborne is a prophet of doom. Thank goodness he has gone. Penny worries. She said it's no secret that the flag has been hijacked by a racist minority who wants to parade as nationalistic. Why was nothing done to ban them from using the flag? Difficult, Penny. There are countries in Europe that ban certain flags. The swastika, for example, is banned in Germany. I don't think we're the kind of country that bans people from using flags. That would be very, very difficult. Graham proudly says, as a scout leader, we always have a St George's Day parade, I bet. Barbara is calling from Chichester. Barbara, let me ask you, are people who celebrate St George's Day right-wing and xenophobic?
Absolutely not. And can I just tell you, Nigel, I've got a Scottish accent.
Yes.
I'm half Italian, half English. My husband is black from the Commonwealth. We've been married since 1974.
Yep.
We went down to Emsworth today, and we were proud to sing the God Save the Queen and celebrate the veterans who turned out there.
Oh, wow. What was happening at Emsworth today, Barbara?
Oh, just a military band and a jazz band.
Okay.
Like that.
And how does your Black Commonwealth husband feel about the St George's flag, St George's Day?
Oh, No, my husband's disabled and he doesn't say very much. But my husband, when he came to this country in the 60s, he came straight to Edinburgh where his brother was a doctor. And he just integrated immediately, and that's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, I have to say I'd rather agree with that. So, it's Happy St George's Day, Barbara, yeah?
Absolutely, my first one, and it was great.
Terrific. Thank you very much indeed. Tom is a first-time caller from Twickenham. Good evening, Tom.
Hi.
So, they say that it's right-wing and xenophobic to celebrate St George's Day and to fly this flag. That can't be right, can it?
Well, I just think it's a symptom of being English.
Yeah.
We think it's sort of undignified to express pride in our nationality.
Yes, I know. We're almost ashamed of it, aren't we?
Yeah.
And yet the Scots aren't, the Irish aren't, the Welsh aren't. So what's wrong with us, Tom?
Because England is so much bigger than the other home nations.
Well, that is true, and we are, by population, we are 86% of the United Kingdom, a figure that's quite staggering.
Yeah, so I think it seems arrogant, or it seems embarrassing to express pride in being English, because we have such a dominant position in the UK.
I think there's something in what you say, but isn't there also, Tom, amongst some on the intellectual left, a certain sense of self-loathing about being English?
Yes, there is. I definitely get that.
Did you hear my quote earlier from George Orwell?
Yes, I did, yeah.
You know, I just want to repeat the bit that really matters. You know, it is unquestionably true that almost any English intellectual would feel more ashamed of standing to attention during God Save the King than stealing from the poor box. I mean, this was written over 70 years ago, and that attitude has persisted, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's partly because there's so much to be proud of. England has done so much. You know, the Industrial Revolution. The British Empire is the biggest empire in history. I think there's so much to be proud of that it's actually embarrassing, and we have to sort of keep it under control because.
Yeah, that slight sort of English understatedness, not being too boastful. No, I do understand that. I do understand that. And Tom, you make a very valid point. Maybe the size of England in relation to the rest of the UK has made us a little bit less celebratory about St George's Day, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't still do it. Thank you. Kev says, look across the pond. Look at America. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, Native American, black or Caucasian, they all embrace the flag. And I have to say, Kev, parts of New Jersey I've been to where virtually every house in the street are flying the stars and stripes, and there's no question about that. You're talking rubbish, mate. I get. God, I've been waiting for this. Nobody is saying that if you're proud of this country, you're racist. What are you on about? Oh, no, plenty of people are saying it. Plenty of people. I had a university lecturer on this morning saying it. So, Les, honestly, we have had a lot of this. The associations between the flag and extremism, and as was pointed out, football hooliganism, it's all there, but we mustn't let it frighten us. Robert is a first-time caller from Ealing. Good evening, Robert.
Evening, Nigel. Thanks for taking my call, and keep up the good work. In a month's time, at St George's Chapel, we're going to have to rename the place because it's going to offend somebody. There's bound to be loads of English flags being flown at that particular...
Oh, how awful. That's ghastly, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Now, you're speaking about lapel badges. How many of our MPs wear the Union Jack or even the Royal Standard on their lapels, unlike the Americans? It seems that we're ashamed of being patriotic. We're ashamed of where we're from. I'm British, I'm English of Irish extraction.
Yep.
I've been out on more St. Paddy Day's drink-ups than I have St. George's Day.
Drink-ups?
Well, I've been...
Look, St. Patrick's Day is a drink-up all over the world, isn't it? It's a huge celebration. I've been to St. Patrick's Day in New York, and my goodness me, it's quite something.
It certainly is, but then there's more Americans hailed to be from English extraction than they do Irish, but then you find them all celebrating Paddy's Day, and of course, I don't think that's going to offend any Irish, but of course, we're afraid of offending anybody now, afraid to speak up. I mean, what's wrong with the royal flag, the Royal Standard? Are we afraid to put those on cars and boats?
So, Robert, let me ask you, what have you done to celebrate St George's Day?
Well, I went to work today, so I suppose that puts me in a minority with the way things have been going of late.
Go on. What did you do? Did you wear a rose? Did you wear a lapel badge?
No, but I have a Union Jack on one of my coats that I wear, and sometimes that draws a little bit of controversy.
Okay,
I'm not a troublemaker.
And did you talk to people at work about the fact that it was St George's Day?
Yeah, quite a few of us did, and quite a few of us are of the same opinion. But then quite a few people are afraid to stick their head too
But did you also, Robert, just one last question if I may, did you also find at work or wherever you went today that quite a lot of people were ignorant of the fact that it was St George's Day?
No, because I work in a management structure, so there's quite a few of us are fully aware of that. But then on the other hand, at the workplace in Crossrail, there will be a lot of people out there that aren't from these islands that will be totally unaware.
Yeah. No, but actually, I tell you what, Robert, there's quite a lot from these islands who are unaware that it's St George's Day, and if they looked at the news headlines at 6 o'clock this morning, they wouldn't have known. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Thank you to all of you for the call. We reclaim the Union Jack, having been told we couldn't use it. It is now trendy right across the world, and this is exactly what we're going to do with the Cross of St George. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive.
Very much, and we're going to be talking about that, in fact, because Jeremy Corbyn says that if Labour had won the last election, it would be a day off, it would be a bank holiday. It's one of 4 extra